What has been your personal challenge being a woman embarking in the workplace and also someone who has served in a high-ranking government position now? What, in your opinion, are the biggest barriers for women in leadership, and how can we break these barriers? Because obviously we must. Kalau dua je KSU dalam 25 kementerian Datuk Seri Suryani, we need more. Silakan.
Terima kasih Anita.
Tahu PM, okay. PM media tolong highlight ya kepada PMX. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Anita, Datuk Seri Suryani, semua sahabat-sahabat semua yang dalam Dewan dan juga fellow panelists. And saya rasa tak payah saya nak cakap balik macam speech saya tadi ya. Saya cakap pasal diri saya. Apa yang saya terpaksa lalui sebagai seorang pemimpin wanita atau wanita yang dilantik sebagai pemimpin. That's two different things sebenarnya. I must always get my words right. Nanti tersilap cakap dalam parlimen, saya tak dalam parlimen sudah, tetapi when I was in parlimen sikit silap, semua mata pandang. Tapi kalau orang lelaki buat silap, gelak saja mereka ya. Marah kawan-kawan saya dalam parlimen. Datuk Seri Suryani selalu ada di parlimen sebab membantu menteri beliau untuk menjawab soalan-soalan parlimen.
Itu bunyi berbau diskriminasi.
Ya, memang banyak diskriminasi yang berlaku di dalam Dewan Rakyat, di belakang Dewan Rakyat. Saya selalu berkata pada diri saya ketika, sorry, can I speak in Malay sometimes, yeah, and also in English, ya. Kita campur-campur ya, cakap bahasa.
I can translate for you.
Sorry. Okay. Ketika saya masuk ke Dewan Rakyat, saya bagi tahu diri saya bukan seorang wanita dan saya tak mungkin menjadi seorang lelaki. I'm genderless. I have no choice. There's so few of us in there. When I see Datuk Seri Suryani kat belakang, the KSU sits at the back of where the ministries are, because they are all the parliament, they cannot enter that area because those are for the members of parliament. It gives me hope to think there's one brilliant lady amongst the civil servants, or two. As she said, as Datuk Seri Suryani said that, kalau wanita, kementerian wanita, naturally lah wanita, KSU-nya, betul. I remember that. Datuk Seri Rafidah pun selalu cakap kat saya begitu juga. It's hard actually, and you know how I came into politics. Actually, I've been trained by my father since I was 8 years old to become a politician. To just share with you, a lot of people do not know that my father is Tan Sri Aziz Baba, who was a 4-term Wakil Rakyat in Rembau, where Khairi Jamaluddin comes from. Just to mention a famous name. Oh yeah, okay. And he told me that you cannot be a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor. You must be a lawyer. Why? I said, because one day I want you to be the next Rafidah Aziz. And by the act of God, I stood for the parliament seat of Kuala Kangsar after the demise of my husband. Semuanya semua ketentuan Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala terhadap diri saya. I remember I shared a lot of moments with Tan Sri Rafidah, how I admired her. Sometimes I don't admire her too. There were moments and I don't admire her. How she had to be like she had to strain herself and how to have to be strong all the time. That is also a barrier. Not able to identify exactly how you would be amongst those of your peers. Itu satu barrier. Cultural barrier, structural barrier, institutional barrier. These are barriers that's been long drawn for centuries against women. Saya guna perkataan itu ya, terhadap wanita. Patriarchal society yang ada sangat tebal di negara kita. Terlalu banyak double standard di dalam masyarakat kita. Buat ini boleh, buat itu tak boleh. Dalam ruang ini boleh, tak itu tak boleh. Saya sebenarnya seorang pecinta lelaki. Jangan gelak kan? Saya ni balu. Tak ada husband. Maksud saya, kita mesti bekerjasama dengan orang lelaki sebenarnya. Untuk break down the barriers. Jangan kita anggap mereka sebagai musuh. Mereka adalah kawan kita. Di dalam parlimen ya, kalau ada sesuatu akta yang saya tahu akan jadi momokan, akan susah debate-nya nanti, saya akan pergi pada kawan-kawan saya yang saya rasa wanita friendly untuk bercakap pada mereka. YB, tolong ya, nanti support Menteri Wanita nanti, janganlah bantai. Alah, sikit-sikit katanya. But ada juga yang sangat serius sebab mereka ada anak perempuan, mereka ada isteri, mereka ada kakak, dan mereka ada pemimpin seperti Datuk Seri Suriani. You can make a difference. In my party, I'm from UMNO. I'll be very honest today, and I hope my president is listening to me, Datuk Seri Zahid Hamidi, which is also our Timbalan Perdana Menteri. It is a difficult party when women needs to rise. I always tell the Wanita UMNO, let's not have us rallying amongst us and fighting each other in here. Why don't we be amongst men and fight at the level where the men are? But I'm always shot down every time. I always feel that Wanita has to work very hard politically in order to rise in the rank and file to go for elections. And when you are given the seats, it's not necessarily the seats will be the seats where you can win easily. So, kadang-kadang diberi seat itu kerana kota wanita, bukan sebab kota wanita yang akan menang. Saya rasa bukan hanya dalam UMNO, tetapi dalam parti-parti lain juga. Dan media, sorry ya, kawan-kawan media, terima kasih kerana support Miasa selama ini. Berhentilah menggambarkan wanita itu seperti ini dan itu. Kenali wanita itu kerana kehebatannya, kebijaksanaannya, pemikirannya, jiwanya. Saya selalu merasakan setiap parti politik itu harus singkap segala barrier yang ada pada mereka supaya boleh meletakkan pemimpin-pemimpin wanita yang akan menentukan apakah polisi dan undang-undang yang akan diluluskan di dalam parlimen. Kita boleh menjerit di mana-mana, kita boleh bercakap di dalam podcast, tetapi akhirnya yang akan menentukan apa yang akan berlaku pada kita dan semua kita di sini adalah undang-undang yang akan diluluskan, polisi-polisi yang akan dibuat oleh KSU dan juga kementerian-kementerian. Jadi kalau tak ramai wanita duduk di situ, di mana sensitivitinya? Kalau nak meramaikan orang dalam dewan untuk mesyuarat misalnya, selalunya wanita yang ramai. Tapi kalau nak menentukan pemimpin atau siapa yang will make a difference, dia selalunya 70% orang lelaki. Apa lagi yang saya fikirkan? Kalau saya cakap pasal diri saya, memang semuanya banyaknya negatif lah. Maafkan saya cakap ni daripada ruang lingkup hidup saya sendiri. Buat apa saya nak membohong? It is real. It's very real. Satu lagi, kita selalu kata kita nak ke hadapan. Kita kata kita dalam century sekian-sekian. Tapi daya fikir kita bagaimana? Kita cakap pasal daya fikir. Kita suruh anak-anak kita belajar pandai-pandai. Tetapi adakah kita ajar mereka untuk menghormati wanita? Ada tak dalam mana kurikulum mengatakan kita mesti menghormati wanita?
Dalam Quran.
Yes. Tapi juga Anita, kadang-kadang siapa yang mengajar bahasa Quran itu? Itu pun penting juga. Kalau dia menterjemahkan isi Quran itu untuk menghormati wanita, dan ia akan disampaikan kepada anak-anak itu. Tetapi kalau ia dikata ini tak boleh buat, itu tak boleh buat, tudung ini, akhirnya mesej tak sampai. Terima kasih Anita.
Alright, thank you very much, Dato' Mastura. Please give her a big hand.
Yeah, resilience is not just about enduring, but also about changing the systems and mindsets that make endurance necessary. So let's talk about breaking these barriers. And of course, I'm going to come back to Dr. Ann. Yeah, so what are some of the most common mental health struggles women face today, and how do societal expectations impact their well-being?
Okay, thank you, Sister Lisa. I think I just want to, I would like to draw the attention that if we look at the National Health and Mobility Survey, I think it was approximately 1 million Malaysians above 16 who is being actually found to have depression. But of course, the common things among women are very unique because we are basically exposed to conditions like, for example, depression because of our multiple, we have expectations. And of course, studies worldwide shows that although it may not be significant in terms of statistical, it is actually showing that women is twice at risk of developing depression as compared to men. And even in the study also showed, the same NHMI study showed that about 11.2% of Malaysian women who are pregnant or they have depression after pregnancy. So basically, and the more worrying thing is because basically 9 out of 10 of these women do not even realize that they have depression. Jadi, and it affects the young mothers in the urban area. So kalau kita boleh kata the urban poor, kalau kita boleh dibenarkan, diizinkan, these are the ones. So at the ministry, we need to target, we need to actually place, because as what I think echoing what Alicia kata, kita ada struggle, we need to have a goal, tapi we cannot capai, we cannot touch everything at the same time. Kadang-kadang kan, so we need to really plan what target groups and things like that. So going back to the question of that common struggle, I think one of the things that we need to actually address, especially I'm sure most of the people around in this room with me would agree that stigma is the main word. Stigma towards whether you have a mental health conditions, even towards mental health. And kadang-kadang ada yang 3 minit lagi. Okay, tadi 1 minit. Okay. Okay. And sometimes, you know, when we talk about stigma, basically breaking the stigma is very, very hard, because especially when you're a woman and you are a leader, you are in an organization macam ni, a lot of us, we are able to come forward to say that yes, I have depression, for example, I'm taking medication, I'm on treatment, I'm going for rehab. But to some, even some, for example, I take the career, macam doctors. You know, the moment that the young doctors say that I have depression right in front of the media, ke kat mana, or you acknowledge, that's it. You know, that's it. How can you have depression while you are treating another patient? But one of the things that is important is actually depression sama juga macam penyakit-penyakit seperti diabetes, hypertension, hypercholesterol. You need, if let's say you need to have medication, yes, do take medication. It shouldn't be a barrier because of the stigma, because sebab ramai yang bila kata depression dia tak nak ambil medication. So that is one of the things that I suppose that we need to break the stigma, and to break the stigma we need to raise awareness and education, which is what we are doing now. For example, podcast dan sebagainya. But one of the things that I always tell masyarakat, ya, let's talk. Talk stands for tell someone you trust about your problem. Of course, if you tell someone that you don't trust, what will happen the next day? Orang akan bercakap pasal your story dekat mana-mana. Tell someone you trust, someone you count in for. Number 2 is actually ask for help. Do not be afraid to ask for help. Listen without judgment. Mental health is about no judgment. Never judge that if you hold a high post dekat mana-mana, you are actually discriminated, not having any problems that is relation to mental health. And K is know where to seek help, Aliza. So basically when we talk about that, and I feel that when we want to break this stigma, I think we have very little time. we need to change, not to say change policies, we need to create policies incorporating mental health agenda into existing policies at every agencies. So now we do have certain policies, contohnya allowing the pregnant mothers to go back early by 1 hour. But I know that some of the companies that give good policies, for example, caregiver policy, caregiver leave, kita ada paternity leave dekat government 7. I know one company that gives 20 months Datuk Seri Zai, 20 bulan, and that husband tells the wife, wah, if my wife gets pregnant or give birth, my leave is longer than her. What do? I can support the woman, you know, take care of the child, the children yang ada yang lain-lain. So basically I think women, it's unique because we have other things like even eating disorder, that is problems related to women, bulimia, anorexia and things like that. So these are the things that we need to focus on, and raising awareness, educating, creating policies, as I wouldn't repeat more, getting men to be your friend to support that, your colleagues to be your friend to support that at workplace. I think those are among the way forward that we can actually work upon. Thank you
so much. Thank you so much. And I love the point that you make that, you know, having depression or any kind of mental illness doesn't necessarily mean that you're incapable. So you still can be capable. No problem. And I think I told this story last year. My face of depression is my honors sociology professor at Boston College so many years ago. That was my first example of depression. I'm like, this man is in the top 1% of minds, and he's telling me that he has depression. Depression, no problem. You can move forward. You can still be a functioning person in society, mashallah.
Thank you very much, Sister Eliza, Dr. N, for the answer. I think what is really crucial for all of us to understand that mental health is also a spectrum.
That's right.
And the stigma is when you're diagnosed with a mental health condition, you must always be unwell. So this is what we would like to shift. Thank you so much. Now, moving on to Datuk Mastura. Now, Datuk Mastura, I think this is a very personal question to you, but this is a safe space, and we are all here of support to you, inshallah, and everyone, of course. Now, we all know that losing, well, I don't, but losing a life partner is an incredibly painful experience. And in your case, the passing of your late husband was a very public tragedy. Now, how did you find the strength to stand up again after such a loss? Because I think, you know, it's unimaginable for me. And one of our sheikhs in one of our classes have said, for a woman, when they lose their husband, when a husband loses their wife, it is very difficult for them to move on and get up. So if you can share with us on what was that experience like for you and how you went through that and got back up on your feet, Datuk Mastura, silakan.
Terima kasih, Anita. It's been 9 years now since that fateful day on the 5th of May 2016 when I got a call from my son. He was in England, he was in London. He gave me a call and said, Ibu, just come down. You know, he's a bit of a naughty side, Wadiman. He would just joke about it and said, you know, Papa is out of the radar. You know how Papa is like, you know, sometimes we cannot locate him. So, but Ibu, this is on the airplane, so, you know, he's out already. He will come in back, okay? I didn't feel right when he said that. Then about 8:30, I got a call from one of the MPOB staff that said that, don't mind me, it's a sharing session, please allow me to speak this way. So some of my dear friends who are in the hall, they have heard this over and over again. Then at 8:30, I got a call from the MPOB staff, and he said, Datin, I was a Datin then, sorry. Datin, kami masih mencari Datuk Wan. I said, it's been 4 hours. Dah 4 jam dah. Tapi tak jumpa-jumpa, you know. Yeah. So I said, I had a son, Wan Iskandar, he was in the other room. I called him and said, quickly, I told myself, you just know, when you're a wife, you just know. Allah Ta'ala akan bagi message itu pada you. Percayalah. I hope it will never happen to all of you. But if it does happen, ia akan datang. Sebenarnya pada petang itu, saya pergi membeli barang-barang dinilai 3 untuk perkahwinan anak saya, Wan Imar Izzat, supposed to get married at the end of the year. My dearest friend, Datin Gina, is here. She was with me throughout the ordeal. And she said something to me, which I will mention later, which has been groundbreaking for me. Yeah, I see 3 minutes, I cannot. And I felt at about 4:30, I think 4 something, I was fasting, it was Isra Mi'raj. I felt this very cold wind, so it was like iceberg wind, it was so hot outside. You know how hot Nilai 3 can be. I felt this wind just passing through my body. And I asked my driver, I said, Rizwan, kau rasa tak tadi ada macam angin sejuk lalu? Apa benda ni ya? Dia kata kan. Tak ada Cik Mas. He calls me Cik Mas. Oh. Then I look at the clock. And guess what? That was the time when the helicopter crashed into the river. What can you say if you can't say, or you want to say, is an act of God? It's like His Spirit for the last time said goodbye to me in that form. That's what I thought, to calm myself down. Quickly that night, I felt there was something not right, and I suddenly saw many people came to the room, to my house, and I knew the bad news is there. I got a call from Dato' Sri Najib. He was very clear and very caring. He said, Datin, I'm trying my best to locate the body of Arwah Datuk Wan. He said, Arwah Datuk Wan, please be strong. Be strong and be prepared. And you know, when I got that call, I'll never forget, because that was a sense of purpose. I started thinking, if Wan is gone, that leaves me and the children. And I asked myself, what was it all about, this last 27 years of my life with him? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make me live with this man? Was there any other purpose to that? And suddenly this ungkapan came, this phrase just came through my mind, demi cinta sebuah perjuangan. All my life with him was all about the perjuangan. All my life is all about looking after the rakyat, taking care of the poor people, and fighting for what is right. And I did it because of out of love. Whenever he wants to go to Kuala Kangsar, sometimes I feel tired. You know, we have that time of day every month. We're all women. We just don't have the energy and the will to go. He will say, you're not supporting me now? You're not supporting me and you don't want to support me?
Melaju lah pula.
Yeah. So I said, tak apa, I will go. And I realized now why that happened to me. So what I'm trying to say is that there was everything that happened to us. Sebenarnya ada sense, ada purpose-nya, ada sebabnya. Kenapa perkara itu berlaku? And my friend Datin Gina, she told me this. After many years, she said, I said, Gina, why haven't I moved on? What is going on? Mas, she said, you never went through the traumatic cycle like everyone else. You had to just go and work. You had to go down to the ground and finish up one's work. My only passion, my only mission after I got to become a member of Parliament of Kuala Kangsar is to do whatever one wanted and finish my work. That was what that made me strong. That was what that made me thrive and lived every day. And there was one day I made a prayer. Ya Allah, biarlah saya kerja sampai mati. Maksud saya, I would have to work so hard, I'll be so tired that I will fall ill because of work. I wanted to die like that. I had no passion at all to live another life. So, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.